Here,
my
they all.
distinguished colleagues, say good afternoon and welcome to the technical session for the month of February.
Chairman of Technical Committee, sir. Chairman of Technical Committee. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
The single ladies and gentlemen, this session is not compulsory. So if you know you want to keep stopping us, we will throw you out and there will not be any apology for that. Because I don't know why so many of you are muting yourself when you are supposed to be in this technical session. Please, this is not the way we behave in our own district.
So before you
let
me mute all for now. Probably before you take out, so you can later mute yourself and talk to us.
Okay, thank you, my chairman. As my IPC has said, thank you, Prof. I think we need to imbibe the culture of online meeting. If we are not talking, let's mute ourselves so that we can enjoy the session together. As I was saying, we pride ourselves as the technical session is our flagship, and we always doling out topical issues with distinguished guests and experts in different fields. This month will not be different. We have in our midst a compliance expert that is going to take us through the topic, the role of chartered accountants in curbing anti-money laundering and terrorism financing in Nigeria. But you know that a lot of things are happening in our financial system, and as accountants, we have roles to play. And as the lawyers amidst us, the learned people say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. There are so many things that are expected, responsibilities are expected of chartered accountants in our different roles. Some of us act as compliance executive, as auditors, even in financial system and other areas. So this afternoon, we have in our midst Mr. Segun Afolabi. I will hand over to Ican to take the profile of our distinguished speaker for today, and we take it up from there. Ican, sir, can you take the...
Okay.
While we make Mr. Olusegun Afolabi as co-host for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ishola. I think I can confirm that Mr. Segun Afolabi is on call. I have a...
Yes, please. And he has been a co-host.
Good. Profile of Mr. Olusegun Afolabi. Olusegun Ebenezer Afolabi is a highly experienced professional with over 2 decades of work experience across various sectors, including financial services, education, and oil and gas. Over the last 17 years, he has specialized in compliance risk management, focusing on managing risks related to conduct, money laundering, bribery, corruption, fraud, and cybercrime. His dynamic strategies have effectively balanced profitability with compliance and improved the compliance culture in the organization he has worked with. Olusegun Afolabi holds a higher national diploma, a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Management, a Master of Information Technology, and a Master of Science in Finance from the University of Lagos. He is a certified fraud examiner, certified anti-money laundering specialist, certified risk and compliance management professional, certified economic crime and forensic examiner, channelized cryptocurrency fundamental certifications, certified internal control auditor, associate, the Chartered Institute of Security and Investment, associate member, Compliance Institute, Nigerian Certification in Risk Management Assurance, fellow, National Institute of Credit Administration, member, Nigeria Institute of Management, Chartered, amongst other professional certifications. In addition, Mr. Afolabi is an honorary life senior member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, He's a member of the International Association of Law Enforcement Intelligence Analysts, USA, the International Association of Crime Analysts, USA, and a member of Advisory Council of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner since year 2010. He currently serves as the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer for Conga Pay Technologies Limited, a Central Bank of Nigeria licensed payment service provider. Olusegun Afolabi's extensive experience and expertise make him a valuable asset in the field of risk management and compliance within the financial industry. We are happy to have Mr. Olusegun today. Please join me in welcoming him as he gives us his thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Olusegun.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sometimes I can hear me very well.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. In fact, I'm actually very happy to be here because using Yoruba words, I'm at home. Yoruba interpretation of Ilelawa, because I can see many people that are I've known for years here, apart from Mr. Olusegun Oyesola. I can see Professor Oyedoku, who is somebody I know I've known for a long period of time. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to us about our role as chartered accountant in curbing money laundering and terrorist financing in Nigeria. So I've been given 1 hour, so I will try as much as possible to use 50 minutes for the discussion. Then we'll take questions and answers. So we're going to look at these 7 areas. I know most of us are used to money laundering. As an accountant, would have gone through 1 or 2 trainings related to anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism. So this is like a refresher, and for some of us that are not familiar with those 2 terminologies, you get to understand them today. So we'll look at definition. We're going to look at the 3 stages of money laundering, then the methods that I can use to launder money, to launder funds, process of ill-gotten funds. Then we'll look at the legal and regulatory framework for AMSCFT, CPF in Nigeria. There are supposed to be 3, but today we'll be looking at 2 aspects. We have money laundering, we have we have financing of terrorism, then we have proliferation financing. The 3rd aspect is really not so common in Nigeria. However, we have a regulation that covers the 3 of them. So we also look at our role as a chartered accountant, then we look at the consequences of non-compliance. What will happen if we don't comply as a professional? So let me proceed. So this slide is about, I'll just use, because of our time, I will just use just layman explanation, just to pass across my message. So briefly, we'll look at what is money laundering. Why do we use those 2 words? Most of us, we even use those words carelessly. Like I always tell people, most of us, we use it carelessly. We tend to accuse people, almost everybody that will know that politicians that they are money launderers. In the main fact, if you look, if they are to implement money laundering and terrorist financing regulation in Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, one thing I run away from, please, I run away from politics when I'm taking this kind of class. Please, if you ask me any political questions, I won't be able to answer. Then I want us to have an open mind. I know we are all chartered accountants. We need to talk, express ourselves without talking about politics. I might use some words that you might not like this first one, which I'm going to use. If they're to implement money laundering and terrorist financing regulation in Nigeria, most of us should be in prison. And I mean it, that's most of us. If you look at the regulation, let me cite a very common one. There's a part of Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2022 that says it is a criminal act for an individual to move about 5 million without recourse to a financial institution. Then for corporate entity, without recourse to a financial institution. If you have ever done that, you are a money launderer. Then again, if you aid, assist, or let me even use a simple word, transact with somebody that is a money launderer, knowingly, you're also a money launderer. It's not only those that are involved in money laundering. As an accountant, or if you work in an institution and you've actually facilitated transaction for a money launderer, by now you should be in prison, or what you should be saying is, when are you going to start your J term? Because really we have legal framework in Nigeria. The fact is we are not implementing that. So to implement that, if you are an individual, if you ever sprayed money in parties, you are guilty of the offense. So that's why I said if you are to implement that the requirement, most of us will be in prison, or most of us would have served our J term. So having said that, let's talk about the history of money laundering. Why did they use those two words? Really, if you look at our holy books, Quran, Bible, you would have seen cases of money laundering and terrorist financing or terrorism. However, they were not using those two words. They were not using money laundering then. If you're talking about using those two words, you will trace that to USA. In those days, in the 1930s, some individuals, they were involved in criminal activities. Name any criminal activities that you can talk of: prostitution, bootleg liquor, and the rest, to mention a few. In order for them to make the money that they've gotten from criminal activities clean, they had to get involved in a legal business. So what they did then was to use one of the most popular businesses then, which was laundromats. We all know what laundromat is. Using a layman language in Nigeria, I would say dry cleaning, all this dry cleaning business, washman, and the rest. They were able to use use laundromats to deceive the society. They were able to make their dirty money clean. By the time the law enforcement agencies came after them, they told the law enforcement agencies that the process of the funds that they deposited in bank that they were spending were from laundromat business, and they were able to deceive the society. One of them was Acapone, while the second person was Mayan Lansky. The first person, Acapone, wasn't educated. In order to hide his ill-gotten funds, in order to make the dirty money clean, he had to establish laundromat business in US. Though, despite the fact that he was not an American, he was able to control US economy. And at the end of the day, he was arrested, not for money laundering, but for tax evasion. There's one Yoruba saying, I'm sorry to use the Yoruba, for some of us, apologies to some of us that are not Yoruba. There's one adage in Yoruba that says, "Ìlú tí ò sí ẹ̀ṣẹ̀, ìlú tí ò sí òfin kò ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ò sí." If there is no law, there won't be any crime. If there is no law against one particular practice or act, you can't say somebody has committed an offense. So that was the reason why they were not. It was not penalized. It was not sanctioned for money laundering. It was sanctioned for tax evasion. Then he died in prison as a result of sexually transmitted disease. Sorry, I'm just using this story so that to drive up my points, so that we'll be on the same page. So the second person, who is like us, when I say us, we the chartered accountant, unlike the first person, Al Capone, that was not educated. Al Capone was an accountant. In fact, they used to call him mob accountant. In addition to using the laundromat business to deceive the society, he also introduced one method then, which we call loan back method, which is still currently being used by our top politicians in Nigeria. How do they do that? What they do is, let me just use a layman example. They would create like a financial institution. After creating the financial institution, they will do as if they took loan from those financial institutions, and after some time they will write off the loan. By the time a law enforcement agency or a financial institution asks them questions, they will try and deceive the person that the proceeds of that those properties were from the loan they took from bank. Let me use a very good example. Our politicians do that in Nigeria. If you check most records of financial institutions in Nigeria, especially banks, it will be difficult for you to see politicians, our politicians, so-called politicians, using those financial institutions to transact, to move funds about. The only account you see with financial institutions, probably their salary and the account they use for these what do you call it, all these their benefits. The real ones that they use to launder process of ill-gotten funds will not come through financial institutions. Is that they use either method or they use people, people like us, like we call them gatekeepers, accountants, and the rest to launder the proceeds of ill-gotten funds. Some of them that have cars, big cars, all these mortgages, they will tell you they took loan. If you ask them the source of their funds, all the buildings they have in Nigeria, they will tell you they took loan from social bank. Meanwhile, what they do is that they already have the funds they've stolen. What they do is just use the financial institution. They do it as if they've taken loan. Then after some period, maybe the loan, maybe the mortgage is supposed to be like for 10 years. What they will do after 5 months, they will just tell you they want to pay off the funds, the loan, the mortgage loan they've taken from the bank. So that's how the Mayor Lansky was able to launder the process of ill-gotten funds in addition to the laundromat. So talking about using those words, then they were still not using money laundering. If you were talking about using those words, really, you can trace it to a journalist also in the US in the early 70s in order to represent a case, an incident in the US. He used those two words, I would say carelessly. Then again, also in the US in 1973, a judge in a court of law, while representing a case, used those two words, money laundering. And from then, they started using those words in US to mean trying to make money gotten from illegal activities. Initially, it was more of drug peddling until they spread it to other predicate offenses. So that's how we came about those two words. Then again, we started having other countries too all over the world. The world is a global village. Other countries too started putting in place measures to curb money laundering. Then after the 9/11 attack, we all know what happened in the US. After the 9/11 attack, the Trade Center, um, US started putting in place measures to also curb terrorist financing in addition to money laundering. Then came one of the main global, I would say not regulator, but they are international organization. We call them FATF, FATF. They are intergovernmental agency based in Paris. They are at the forefront of curbing money laundering and terrorism financing. So initially, they were trying to put measures, controls in place to monitor, to curb money laundering. After the 9/11 attack, they also introduced another measure. Initially, they had what we call 40 recommendations. So after the 9/11 attack, they introduced what we call 9 special recommendations. So after 2012 again, they matched the 9 recommendations with the 40 recommendation, and I said instead of separating money laundering from terrorism financing, they included the two of them. Then after some years too, they also included the third part, which I mentioned earlier on, which is proliferation financing. That's a weapon of mass destruction. Our focus today is not on just two aspects. There's the terrorist financing and the money laundering aspect. So that's how we came about those two words, money laundering. Sorry, I hope I'm communicating. Sorry, I know I'm a bit fast. Not for me to miss the 1 hour game. Hope I'm communicating and very clear.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for the feedback. So, this is an example in Nigeria. We have so many other people that have been convicted. Though this person was not convicted, probably maybe because he's not alive. We'll be talking more about him. We have other people that have been persecuted. We have people like Ibori. We have people like okay, don't let me mention their names because some people might not be happy. Basically, we have Ibori and the former governor of Plateau State. He's been pardoned now. Then we have a former governor to also in Bayelsa State is dead. So let's talk about definition. Because of our time, we'll be able to talk about break down the definition. This is a definition given by at the United Nations 2000 Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. We have several definitions. We have definition given by FATF that I mentioned. We also have definition given in our Money Laundering Prohibition Acts in Nigeria. We also have in the AFC Act, we have definition given for money laundering, and also in the Terrorism Prevention, Prohibition and Prevention Act 2022, we have definition of terrorist financing and terrorism. So for the purpose of our discussion today, I think we should just use a simple definition that will just pass home our discussion. When I'm talking about money laundering is basically trying to make money gotten from criminal activities. That is trying to make money from criminal activities clean. In other words, everything about money laundering is dirty money in quote. Unlike terrorism financing, while money laundering is all about dirty money in quote, terrorism financing is both clean money and dirty money. What do I mean by that? Some of this, let me use Boko Haram now. Some of the funds that are being used to fund terrorism, that's Boko Haram in Nigeria, some of them were gotten from legal activities. For example, we have donation by people unknowingly. Some people also contribute to them not knowing. Some of them, they give envelope to support religious purpose, not knowing that what those guys use those funds for to buy equipment to carry out terrorism attack. Then also we have the dirty part too, which has to do with some of them go to market, they rob, they go to they kidnap people and carry on dirty businesses. So that's why I said terrorism financing is not only about dirty money, unlike money laundering. It also includes clean or dirty money or clean money. For example, the 9/11 attack that I said mentioned earlier. If you look at it very well, study the typology. The main person that carried out the activity, Bin Laden, didn't use genuine funds. Bin Laden was a businessman. All the funds that he used to facilitate the 9/11 attack were money made from genuine business. That's why I said terrorism financing is not only about dirty money, it's also about clean money. So at the back of our mind, let's have it, even when we see all this big grammar, all this big definition, you just have it at the back of your mind that what they're talking about is trying to make money gotten from criminal activities clean. Everything about money laundering is dirty, is illicit activity. So there's what we call predicate offense in money laundering. In fact, if you check our Money Laundering Prohibition Act, that's the law of the country, the major law of the country that guides anti-money laundering in Nigeria, is listed there. We call it predicate offenses. Using a layman explanation, what they're trying to say is that for you to see somebody has committed the offense of money laundering in Nigeria, you would have committed any of these listed predicate offenses. So in other words, when you are being punished for money laundering, you will also be punished for predicate offenses. That is what the law of the country says. This is the law. However, I always tell people, based on my experience, I know there are lawyers here. Professor who is a lawyer too, you can attest to that. Whenever when you have cases money laundering related, and you are trying to defend yourself that what is stated in Money Laundering Prohibition Act of the country are just these 21 predicate offenses. That is when lawyers will turn it around. They will link all the other crimes not listed here. They will link it to any of these 21 predicate offenses. For example, let me use one simple crime that is common to us in Niger Delta: bunkering. You can say bunkering is not listed here, but by the time you commit the offense, they will punish you for bunkering. Then they will link it to any of these predicate offenses. Can be theft, smuggling, or any other stuff. So don't say I'm an accountant. If I have issue with maybe money EFCC and they charge me to court, you now say I didn't commit any of these predicate offenses. Please have it at the back of your mind in Nigeria. I'm talking based on my experience. Having worked in a bank for some years, gone to court, gone to EFCC. By the time you commit any crime, that's when they will link it to any of these predicate offenses. So have it at the back of your mind that if you commit any crime and you're trying to spend the proceeds, you'll be punished for money laundering. One funny one that usually I will talk about is prostitution. I know if I talk about prostitution, some people will say, is it not my body I'm using to pay for prostitution? No. If you get involved in prostitution, either low scale or on a medium scale or large scale, they can use the law. The law enforcement agencies can use the law against you. The fact is, nobody will waste his or her time to be pursuing prostitution. If they are to implement the law of the country, if you get involved in money laundering prostitution, you can be punished for money laundering. You need to have it at the back of your mind is, if you do anything that is illegal in this country and you try to spend the proceeds, you'll be prosecuted for money laundering. There are some countries that prostitution is legal. If you carry out prostitution in those countries, you are not a money launderer. But in Nigeria, if you commit any crime, including prostitution, which is illegal, and you try to spend the proceeds, you'll be punished for money laundering. So businesses prone to money laundering. I won't waste our time here because there is no business or no activity that cannot be used to launder proceeds of ill-gotten funds. It's as bad as using religious organization to launder proceeds of ill-gotten funds. You've seen cases where some people that are not Christian, they own churches. Then we also seen cases where some Christians to use some Islamic religious organization to carry out to either launder proceeds of ill-gotten funds or to get involved in terrorism financing. There was a case of one that EFCC were investigating one time, of a guy, a politician who owns a church. In fact, when I got to hear about the story, I was in EFC then. When the person told me the story, I said, I don't remember that person is not a Christian. So when by the time he explained how they perpetrated that activity, I was shocked. Let me just use a simple analogy to just explain how it happened. The way they do it, they look for those guys, churches. When I say churches, I'm talking about all these mushroom churches, all these one-man churches. They will look for one of those guys. Ask the person that they will tell the person that they want to assist him to build his church, they support the work of God. They will tell him to go and look for land, get instruments, get anything they need to assist them in their serving God. But they will just give a caveat that one thing that you'll be doing for me is that you open an account whenever you need to move funds in and out of Nigeria. I'm going to use your church account to move the funds. So that's how they use churches, which is a common thing. In fact, I don't want to use the example, but though it's not been confirmed. If you remember, for some of us, I think it's still online. If you read the story of Mago, the former EFC chairman, if you read one of the cases they noted against him, they said he was using churches to move money to Dubai. That's an example. I'm not saying he did that, but that's an example of how the money launderers use religious organizations to launder proceeds of ill-gotten funds. In fact, that was it. For some of us, I understand, know what we call SCUMU, Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering. One of the main reasons why they tried to bring out a regulation to regulate some businesses that they call DNVP, designated non-professionals and businesses. One of the main reasons why they introduced that was because of religious organizations. They discovered that most of the funds that are being laundered globally were being done using religious organizations. So what they did then was brought out a regulation. They wrote to the presidency and they said there's need to bring out a regulation. So what initially they brought out a regulation through CBN. Then SCUMU was still under trade and investment. And now what they said was, for a religious organization and other businesses classified as DNVPs, you're supposed to get SCUMU certificate. You're supposed to be rendering reports on transaction being consummated. What do I mean by that? If you're paying zakat in mosque or you're paying tithe in mosque, in church, that means if it's up to 5 million, you need to disclose the source of the funds. That was the essence of SCUMU, bringing out, establishing SCUMU and regulation on DNVP then. But in Nigeria, the way we reason in Nigeria, they went to meet the presidency then and said that is blasphemy against God, and it will look nice for you to ask somebody to provide the source of the proceeds of the money you are using for tithe or to support the religious organization. That was how presidency through the CBN wrote to all financial institutions in Nigeria then that they should relax the requirements. Then also the legal guys to the legal professional to also took school muset to court and won, though there's a new regulation which requires them to also comply with school requirements. So that was why they were able to kind of defeat what's the plan of the law enforcement agencies then. That's why they don't now churches, the only requirement is that they just get school certificate. After the school certificate, there's no need for them to there's no law that ask them to provide any other thing again, meet any other requirement. So I just gave that religious organization as an example so that you know that there's no activity or business that is not prone to money laundering. We have restaurants, we have some of these car dealers that you see around. Please forgive me if you're a car dealer in I know some of us use we have plan B. If you're a car dealer and your shop is in Ojuelegba, please forgive me. Because most of those guys that you see around Ojuelegba, many of them are money launderers. What they do is basically assisting the drug peddlers to move their funds. What do I mean by that? Let me just use an example. How they do that. Let me just use an analogy. What they do is a drug peddler will take drug outside Nigeria in order for him to bring the proceeds back to the country. You know, it's always very difficult for you to move money back to Nigeria. So what they will do is just talk to somebody that is a car dealer, tell the person, please assist me to move this particular amount back to Nigeria. Through that process, the car dealer or the spare part dealer will be able to move billions, will make importation to Nigeria. And through that process, the guy will come to Nigeria, then sell some of these goods at ridiculous prices. Mostly, sometimes they even forfeit like 30% from the proceeds. You know, money launderers, they are very, don't let me use the word, they don't mind sacrificing what do you call it, forfeiting some percentage in order for them to get back their ill-gotten funds. So that's an example of using a car dealer. We also have, let me give on a lighter mode, let me use one example. During the COVID era, how the money launderers are able to use all of us. When I say all of us, we are not guilty of the offense because it was unknowingly. You know, the intent then during the COVID attack was more buying nose masks and hand sanitizers. So the bad guys now saw that as an opportunity to bring back the ill-gotten funds. So what did they do? They started importing. You know, initially when COVID started in Nigeria, some of our people started, they were innovative. They started producing hand sanitizers through using some local ingredients. Then our tailors to start producing nose masks using Ankara. Then after a few months, you notice that they started importing nose masks. Then the bad guys started importing and they were selling those nose masks and the hand sanitizers less than what our local producers, then when I say our local producers, our tailors were doing here. So at the end of the day, me and you, we started assisting them. And you know, Nigeria, it later turned into fashion, especially apologies to ladies, started buying several nose masks to fit. Meanwhile, what they were doing was they were supporting the money launderers to bring back their ill-gotten funds. And those guys were smiling back to back. They were smiling and bringing back their billions that they were trying to launder. So those are just examples. Then the last one, which is the gatekeepers. That's we accountants. Who are the gatekeepers? The gatekeepers are basically people that assist people to carry out transactions. They are like the businesses and the people that want to carry out business. Let me use example. Lawyers, you know, lawyers, they represent their clients. Accountants too, we also represent their clients. And based on typologies or based on what has been happening, all the case studies, almost all the money laundering has been taking place involve the gatekeepers, involve either an accountant or a lawyer. Example, let me use Ibori as an example. You all know who Ibori is, who he was and who he is. The former governor in Delta State. when he was trying to launder ill-gotten funds, when he laundered his ill-gotten funds, because he already laundered it, he bought some properties. Then what he did was he was able to commingle. Commingle is tautology in English, but is the terminology used in compliance. It means mixing money made from criminal activities with money made from genuine sources. So in order for the lawyer to assist Ibori to make his dirty money clean, what he did was he established a real estate business in UK. So the real estate business was doing legitimate business, and money was also coming in from banks in Nigeria. And the lawyer, his name was Goyil, his name is Goyil, was able to commingle the money made from criminal activities with the real estate, and Ibori was able to use those funds to invest in buy cars, build houses in UK and all over the world. He was also able to move some of them to Switzerland and some of them back to Nigeria. And he was able to succeed. He was able to do that because a great keeper is involved. Some of us will say it's coincidence. It's actually not a coincidence, because by the time the law enforcement agencies in UK carried out an on-site investigation, they were able to break into the lawyer's, that's Goi's office, and they were able to break into his computer, and they saw that Goi has been laundering funds for several African head of states, including the military head of states. So you can see that it's a professional gatekeeper involved in money laundering. That's why there's a focus on us, the gatekeepers, the accountants, the lawyers, because if you look at the money launderers, they are not, in quotes, they are not that smart. In fact, in Nigeria, many of those methods they use were being taught. Let me say, they were being perpetrated through the bankers. It is the bankers that give some of these politicians they teach them how to launder process of ill-gotten funds so that they will not be caught. So also the gatekeepers, the lawyers, the accountants. So those are the methods. Like I told you, there's no method that you can use to launder process of ill-gotten funds. You can also use art materials. There was one case study that happened. This one is a real life story of a guy that stole funds from his employers. During the investigation, they went, of course, the first people they were arrested are those that are people they suspect that will be involved in the theft. So what they did was they arrested many of them. They took them to police station. There was one that they suspected. They suspected the guy because by the time they looked at his lifestyle, he has cars. He took loan. He bought some properties. So the suspect, it was the main suspect. However, the main suspect was living large without them knowing. It was after one day that the guy got drunk in a beer parlor, in a restaurant, that the guy started confessing that it was the one that perpetrated the fraud. And what he did was he bought art materials worth millions. So what he did was, by the time they started searching everybody's house. They came to his house. They didn't see much. The only thing they saw was the art material and few properties that were not so expensive. So when they saw that, they went. Then when they needed money, what did he do? He sold. Hello? Sorry, are you talking to me? Okay, somebody's voice. Yeah.
Please continue. Please continue.
Okay. So when he needed money, what he did was to sell the art material and bought a lesser, a cheaper one. So he was able to do that over time until he was drunk, went to a beer parlor, like I said, and while confessing, that was why they were able to get information that was actually the person that perpetrated the act. So you can see, there's no nothing you cannot use. Football clubs too, you can use football clubs. Many of the restaurants that you see around in Lagos, many of them that you see bringing money to the banks. Many of them are not making much money. What they do is they're assisting more politicians on a daily basis. They will bring in millions to the bank, telling you that this is the process of the food they've sold in the restaurant. Meanwhile, what they are doing is they are commingling. They are assisting the politicians. That is a common business in Owerri. Is also common in Ibadan too. It's something that is new in Ibadan. You see many of the hotels, they bring in millions on a daily basis. Meanwhile, you will see customers there. What they are trying to do is to commingle money made from criminal activities with money they've made from the hotel business. So having said that, let me just move because of our time. So for you to learn that process of e-gotten funds, you are likely to use these 3 stages. I said you are likely. Why I said is likely is that it is not compulsory for a money launderer to use the 3 stages. You can use one of these. You can use layering and go to integration. You can go to placement and go to integration. One important stage that you need to go through there is the integration part, that's the part where the money comes back to the legitimate economy. Because of our time, let me use Ibori as a case study so that we understand. You all know, like I said, Ibori was a former governor in Delta State. So in order for him to launder the process of e-gotten funds, what did he do? Ibori had to open accounts. They use several methods, but my focus is just for us to understand the 3 stages. So you open an account with some banks in Nigeria. When I say opening accounts with some banks in Nigeria, of course, he didn't use his name. What he used was gatekeepers. He used lawyers and accountants to open those accounts. Like all politicians, most of them that laundering funds, you won't see their name on the corporate entity. What they do is to use people, front gatekeepers to open accounts, and they start moving funds. So Ibori opened an account with some banks in Nigeria, and he started moving those funds into the banks, which is the first stage of money laundering. That is placement. Placement is when, using the financial institutions, when the funds laundered comes into the financial system. That is the first stage. Then Ibori again, in order for him to distance himself from the laundered funds. Sorry, okay. So in order for him to distance,
please go ahead.
Okay. In order for him to distance himself from the launder funds, what he did was to create what we call layers. He had to distance himself from the process of e-gotten funds. So what he started doing was started moving the money from the bank in Nigeria to several banks in Nigeria, then to through wire transfers to different banks across the globe. So one of the banks that he moved the funds to were banks in UK. So looking at this, that's the second stage of money laundering, which is layering. Then coming to the last stage, I've already explained to earlier on, talking about Goyil, the lawyer that he employed in UK. Goyil was a lawyer. He established a real estate business. Then he started commingling. Then after commingling, he started using those funds, moving them back to the legitimate economy. That is the last stage, which is the integration stage. That is when the money become clean. The only thing you'll be getting from the money launderer is God has blessed him. Go to church, go to mosque, give thanksgiving. Meanwhile, you in your mind will be wondering, blaming yourself, is it not the same country you are? Meanwhile, what the guy has done was to use process of ill-gotten funds, that is to commit criminal activity and to spend the proceeds to deceive you. So those are the 3 stages of money laundering: placement, layering, and integration. Then one thing about money laundering is it is in cycle. When I say cycle, bicycle, CYCLE. You can move from integration back to placement. What do I mean by that? Let me use this first of our time. Let me use a simple explanation. Let me use Desiani. Apologies. Desiani is not a money launderer because she's not been convicted. I just want to use her as an example. There was a time they said she bought undies worth billions of naira. When she bought those undies, that's integration. She's already using it for personal purpose and for anything she wants to use it for. Then, let's assume she's broke and she decides to sell those undies again to now come back to the first stage, which is placement. That's why I said it's a cycle. Money laundering can jump from final stage and go back to the first stage. So placement, layering, and integration. So the second part, terrorism financing, our focus is more of terrorist financing and not the people that carry out terrorist acts. The fact is, if you tackle terrorism through the financing aspect, you'll be able to tackle terrorism, because those terrorists, though you can manufacture bombs with as little as 30,000 naira, but in actual fact, the terrorists, they still need funds to perpetrate their acts. Though the benefits, the purpose of carrying out terrorism is not for financial benefit, but they need money to perpetrate, to carry out the act of terrorism. So that's why the focus is usually on terrorism financing. So this is definition by FATF on terrorism financing. Because of our time, we'll not look at that. It's something I will send the slide later. Then we can also read more about terrorism financing. And I've also we've talked about the 9/11 2021 2001 attack in US, which led to expanding the scope, not expanding it from including terrorism financing to money laundering. Initially, before 2001, the focus was more of money laundering, but after the terrorist attack on Trade Center, they expanded the scope to include terrorism financing. So after 2001, globally, countries tried as much. They've been trying as much as possible to put in place controls to mitigate the risk of terrorism and terrorism financing. We talked about this before. So these are the differences between money laundering and terrorist financing. Like I said earlier on, money laundering is about dirty money, while terrorism financing includes, apart from, in addition to dirty money, also includes clean money, in quote. Because of our time, I might not be able to go through all of them, but one thing I need to talk about, which is very useful to us, which we also need to understand as gatekeepers and accountants, is that for money laundering, it's involved large amount of money, while terrorism financing is usually very small. You know, it's very small. You can, like I mentioned earlier on, it as little as 30,000 naira. You can manufacture. You buy fertilizer to manufacture bombs. So it's not, you don't need huge amount of money. That's why it's always very difficult for financial institutions to identify terrorist financing. Unlike money laundering, you can use threshold, you can use the transaction dynamics. But for terrorist financing, just see people. The only way you can identify terrorist financing is usually through activities. For example, people come to financial institution, maybe for a bank example, then you see people, there are many, you see one to many, somebody coming to withdraw money and is giving plenty of people, and the way those people address. Then maybe you, if you're a marketer, you go to their do address verification, and you see the way those people, the way they address, the way they behave. That's the only way you can identify terrorist financing. Unlike money laundering, that you can identify through huge amount of money. Then these are international as well as regulatory and legal framework that's been put in place to curb money laundering. Globally, we have the FATF. I've talked about that. The FATF is an intergovernmental agency based in Paris. They have 40 recommendations. They have 40 recommendations that all countries all over the world should comply. If you don't comply, it's going to affect your economy. If you are on high risk, it's going to affect your economy. Presently, Nigeria is on the gray list. For some of us that are in the regulatory agency or are in financial institutions, I'm sure you'll be aware, and some of us that are in the academic world, so you'll be aware that currently we are in gray list. And Nigeria regulators, Nigerian financial institutions, and everybody are trying to put in place measures so that by the time they come back for another routine examination next year, they will clear us and remove us from gray list. In your mind, I know some of us will say, what is the meaning of gray list? What is the high risk? What is the impact? The impact on being gray list, on the gray list or high risk, is it will affect the way other countries perceive or treat you as a country. Now that we are on the gray list, for our banks in Nigeria to carry out transactions on behalf of customers, on their customers, they need to carry out what we call enhanced due diligence. The banks, the correspondent banks across the globe, US, UK, they will ask more questions on the customer. They will start asking you the source of they will tell you to go and provide the source of the funds. Then if you're on the high risk, there are some transactions that you cannot consummate. There are some platforms that you cannot transact as a country, as a citizen of a country. Also, the way they will treat you wherever you go will be different. That's why the government agencies, all financial institutions, and the entire country is trying as much as possible to remove our country from the gray list. So these are the regulations and the laws. The one that's common to all of us, that affects all of us, is the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act. It's a law of the country. Then we have the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. They are laws. We know why I said they are it affect us. Regulation does not necessarily need to affect everybody. Regulation is made for a particular what would I say, sector. For example, we have the money laundering, AML, CFT, CPF regulation by NICOM. It does not affect most of us. It affects people, the insurance companies are people that transact in this insurance sector. Then we have the PENCOM too. Those are regulations. But for the law, the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2022 affects anybody in the country, irrespective of the sector. In fact, all these regulations are like domestication of what the law of the country says. For example, we have the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, the law of the country. And that for insurance company, that's the regulator of the insurance company to regulate the insurance sector. What they did was to introduce what we call their own AMS CFT CPF regulation for insurance company. We also have for banks and for CBN too. Though CBN has kind of gone ahead of other regulators, they've turned some of their own regulations to law. For example, the CBN AML CFT CPF Administrative Sanction Regulation 2023 is law. It was signed by the Chief Justice, AGF Malami, when he was the AGF then. Is law. It affects everybody in the country, despite the fact that it's from CBN. So, having said that, over time, let's look at us as accountant, as gatekeeper. Why is there focus? I think I've mentioned that before. Because of our expertise, we are very knowledgeable. We know how to manipulate. We know how to beat the system in quotes. We know how to circumvent the system because we have knowledge. We know how to tell the customer. We know the laws. We know how to tell them, in order for you to do this, please use this method. This is the best way in order for you not to be identified as a money launderer. So we also have link across the globe. We have people. We can always use our contact to move funds. We can also seek opinion. We can also talk to people in other countries to assist us. Then again, FATF recommendation, FATF. I told you, for FATF recommendation, F40 recommendation, we have two of them that speak to the gatekeepers. That's majorly accountants and the lawyers. So the impact of money laundering and terrorist financing. We all know. We know the reputation risk. If your country is known as a country where you support terrorism financing and most of your politicians are very corrupt, you have so many criminals getting involved in money laundering, the way people will see you will be quite different. That's why I don't blame some countries. When Nigerians, when we travel, the way they treat us even at the airport is quite different from the way the way they treat other citizens. Why do they do that? Because they see us as money launderers. They see most of us as terrorists, financiers as terrorists. Then a criminal persecution too. If you get involved in money laundering, you're persecuted. If you're an accountant, you face this, you face the law. Then in addition to you being, what would I call it now? Ican will remove you as a member. You will no longer be a member of Ican if you get involved in money laundering. Then regulatory sanction and fines you. If you have a company, if you're on your own as an accountant, you establish your accounting firm and you get involved in money laundering, your company will be sanctioned. Then also, you as a person, you are going to face, you're going to, you also be penalized. Either you go to prison or you be fined. Most times, companies get fined or they seize their license, but for individual, you go to prison or you pay fine. Then legal and personal liabilities, that's for legal is for the entity, while the personal is for those in charge of the running of the company. Then loss of the ability to conduct business or transactions on or transaction on activities. That is why when I was talking about us being on a green list or high list, high risk list. Once you're on that list, there will be a restriction. There will be there will be the kind of transaction that will be able to consummate will be limited based on the fact that you've been classified as high risk country or gray list country. So our role now as an accountant, one of them is you need to verify your customer's identity using reliable independent source. One thing I didn't talk about because of the time is SCUMU certificate. I mentioned it briefly. However, there are some customers that are supposed to be registered with SCUMU. SCUMU is Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering. It used to be under Ministry of Trade and Services. In order to give them more power, they moved them to EFCC. They're now under EFCC. So if you're a DNFBP, you are supposed to register and get SCUMU certificate. If you're an accountant, you have an accounting firm, you have a construction firm, you're a lawyer, though some legal firms are still dragging, like I told you, they took them to court, they won, and the new law says they need to also register with SCUMU. So if you're a DNFBP, you're classified, including churches, religious organization, Islamic organization, you're supposed to get SCUMU certificate. You log on to www.scumu.org. You register. If you don't register, it's a criminal offense. If you are into any of the DNV businesses and you don't get SCUMU certificate, you can be penalized. You can go to prison because of that. So you try as much as possible. If you are into if you're running an individual accounting firm, if you have not registered with SCUMU, please go and do that. There's no impact. There's no what will I say? There's no financial consequence on you registering. What you just need is for you to register on SCUMU websites. Once you finish the registration, once your certificate is ready, they will call you. You don't need to pay for anything. So because it's free, I don't think it shouldn't be a problem. It should be a problem for us as lawyers to go and register on SCUMU certificate. So like I said, verification, and you collect information on your customer, then you verify the customer's information. Then also, this is applicable to us that owns that into that has a financial, what they call accounting firm. You need to conduct ongoing due diligence on the people you do business with. If you have somebody that wants to do business with you, seeking for your professional advice, you need to know who the person is. If the person is a money launderer, you don't deal with the person. What you just do is to escalate, you render returns, you render what we call STR or SAR to the appropriate regulatory agencies. Then you scrutinize the transaction throughout the course of the relationship. Then if you are dealing with PEP, what is PEP? PEP is a politically exposed person, their close associates, their family members. What is a PEP? A PEP is somebody that has a political position, that in the public, that has a public position. For example, the presidents, ministers, governors, chancellors, their wives, house girl, drivers, girlfriend, wives, concubines, they are all PEP. Why is it that they classify the associates? Well, I said girlfriend. Why do I say that? They said that there's a focus on their class associate because if you check all the money laundering incidents that has happened, including Ibori, they all use their girlfriend or their close associate. Even I'm sorry to use President Jonathan to, there's a time there was a time they said she was involved in money laundering, that she used was it Sky Bank or one of the banks then. All the funds that were used then they said she used a driver and gardener to move those funds. That's why the focus is always is also on their close associate. If you check Ibori too, Ibori used his girlfriend. Check all the politicians and all people in public position. All of them use people close to them. They do, like I mentioned earlier on, most of them, many of them, all of them, they don't usually move those funds through financial institution or agencies using their real name. They use people, they use gatekeepers to do that. Then suspicious transaction. If you see any suspicious transaction or suspicious activity with your customer, you're supposed, is a legal requirement for you as a professional to render suspicious activity report or suspicious transaction report to Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit through DNFBP. For some of us that have accounting firm, you can render it through DNFBP. There's a portal, then to school, sorry. Then school will now forward to NFIU. Also, you can render directly through NFIU. There's a portal on NFIU that you can render reports related to suspicious transaction. Please, if you have a suspicious activity or suspicious transaction report, render to the appropriate authority. The fact is, whenever there are issues and it discovered that they find out that you knew and you didn't render suspicious transaction, you also be liable. That's when they will not term you a money launderer or even a terrorist financier. We've seen instances where some people get involved in terrorism unknowingly. The fact is, if you are liable, if you are found wanting, maybe you knew somebody or unknowingly assist somebody, you also be punished. You serve the same punishment as the person that was involved in money laundering or terrorist financing. So you do that, you render suspicious transaction reports without tipping off. There's another offense there. What is tipping off? Tipping off is when your customer is being investigated for money laundering and terrorist financing, and you go and tell the customer that he or she is being investigated. If the customer gets to know, you'll be sentenced to prison for tipping off, minimum of 2 years and maximum of 3 years. So when you see any activity that is related to money laundering and terrorist financing, escalate, but don't tip off the individual or the entity. So these are the consequences all of our time. Imprisonment, we all know. In-house disciplinary action that may lead to dismissal, then suspension from professional association. I'm sure if any of the Ican member gets involved in money laundering or terrorist financing, it's not even going to be suspension. The person will be expelled from the professional body. So we need to be very careful as professional. So because of our time, I think I've passed 5 minutes beyond the time given. So this is the conclusion. Money laundering and terrorist financing are financial crimes with economic effects. One of the major problems, I know most of us we are shouting, we are talking about the APC, PDP, Labour Party, and the rest. One of the major problems we are facing in this country has to do with money laundering and terrorist financing. Majorly, in fact, the two of them, because money laundering, most of the funds that are supposed to be used, that are even we talk about even removal of subsidy. Some of the funds that are being removed from subsidies, some people are also laundering the funds. So that's why we have a major problem in Nigeria. That's why the economy will not grow. Then financing of terrorism, some of the funds that are supposed to be channeled to education, channeled to other areas that's to provide infrastructure for the individual, are being pushed to finance to curb terrorism. Many of the funds, billions, trillions, are being expended annually to curb terrorism. Assuming we don't have terrorism in Nigeria, we would have expended those funds to develop our economy. That's why I said those two acts, those two criminal activities are part of the major problem that we have in this country. So having said that, thank you for your time. Sorry, I have to be fast of the time given. Sorry. Thank you for your time. Questions? Answers?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Segun Afolabi. Can we appreciate him, please? Let's appreciate his time and the effort he has. I'm sure he has done justice to the topic, because and some of us now have a good at least an appreciation of what money laundering is. And beyond that, I will enjoin each and every one of us. As they say, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Familiarize ourselves with all this law, Anti-Money Laundering Prohibition Act, CFT, and the likes to safeguard us and equip us against running foul of the law. So if anyone has any question, can we indicate now? If you have any question for the speaker?
Can see some hands up.
Okay. I want us to raise our hands so that we know how many. So we have 4. I can see 5. So Dr. Paulinus, then Mr. Andrew Anyasi will go, then Mr. Olubenga Akinlalu will go next. Let's have that 3 in succession so that he responds, then we have another batch. So, Dr. Paulinus, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Please, let's make it brief because our time is fast spent, please.
Yeah, so thank you, presenter. Thank you for a very concise and straight to the point presentation. So for me, I think this issue of money laundering is or terrorism financing generally, it's a part of a wider scope of what is referred to as illicit financial flows. So for me, I want just beyond. I want to ask what exactly we are doing, especially from the perspective of the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, with respect to dealing with this, because I'm aware that the amendment to CAMA introduced what they call beneficial register. So this beneficial register is to help us know who the natural persons behind some of these companies. Because to be honest, if we're looking at individuals, like you mentioned, girlfriends and the rest of them that are used for this purpose, you will not be able to trace some of this money moving here and there. For me, it's not just about report, it's also the ability to be able to trace and recover them. So what is the CSC? Are you aware of what the CSC is doing around beneficial registers or ownership register, such that people that are actually the people behind those companies that are used for money laundering, companies are usually used, trust, corporate structures are usually used for this activity. So what are we doing to prevent? I'm talking about the overall action from the side of government in terms of prevention now. So
okay,
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paulinus. Dr. Paulinus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paulinus. Can I just this thing is
you want to take them one by one?
Should I think I should just, because it's straightforward. Let me just take his own.
Okay.
Like his own is straightforward. Right. I understand what he's saying. Like it's part of the initiative from CAC. Actually, the initiative was actually from the banks. It was actually the banks that brought out their initiative to, based on what is happening in UK. To understand the people that are behind, as the UBO. In Nigeria, other countries is 25%, but in Nigeria, anybody that has 5% and above, you are supposed to identify. But one thing I need to mention here is, you all know the peculiar way we behave in Nigeria. Even with the declaration, some people still try every possible best to declare, to hide the UBO. When you are carrying out registration, is it not what the lawyers go there to do when they register the company? Is it not what the register that CAC will work on? So you see, it's actually beyond that registration with CAC. There are some things like I mentioned, with the accountants, with the lawyers, we find a way to teach our customers to beat the law. Even with that, this particular CAC incidents, I've seen cases discussing with some EFC guys where some people were able to beat this requirement. We need to put more measures beyond the CAC regulation, or what do you call it, legal requirements.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Andrew, please ask your question. Mr. Andrew Anyasi.
Okay, Andrew Anyasi here, MB036061. My question is actually this. Given the money laundering principle and how it affects individual, I'm actually concerned about how it impacts the innocent man. Because I'm looking at it from the angle where my own money, say I want to take it from the US to Nigeria, with the source of getting the money clearly defined. Why do I need to go through those processes, knowing fully well that the financial institution is there, happy to slam me with different type of charges? So I'm looking at it that they may have put in too many laws that is likened to like throwing the bathwater together with the baby. Because how would the innocent man now be able to survive in such a stringent condition? So that's my concern. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Andrew.
much.
I think like I mentioned earlier, it has to do with the way your country is being classified. Like I said earlier on, we are on gray list. Because we're on gray list now, the requirements for us to for our banks in Nigeria to move funds to us or to transact on our behalf with correspondent banks outside Nigeria will be very strict because we are on because we are not on the good books of FATF. If we go back to the low risk categorization, it's going to affect the way banks in Nigeria. It will affect the way even the way we do business will be very fast. But it won't affect the charges. I know you mentioned charges. Charges charged by banks in Nigeria are different things. I'm talking about we are talking about AML CFT now. Charges in Nigeria, there are some of them are regulatory, while some of those banks they charge based on what will I call it? On or let me say they have individual, all banks have individual charges that they, in addition to the regulatory charges that that you get as a customer.
Okay, Mr. Akinlalu, can you ask your question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Balabi, for a very insightful session. Yes, you mentioned in the course of your presentation that professional accounting service.
Sorry, I can't hear him. I don't know if he's from my end.
I'm speaking already. Can anybody hear me?
Oh, okay.
It's better now. It was slow before.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Balabi, for the very insightful session. You mentioned in the course of your presentation that accounting services firm to procure SCOMU certificates, Yes, SCOMU certificates, but procuring SCOMU certificate is a tall order. It's a tall order, a serious business on its own. So what do you advise? Because even a lot of corrupt practices happen in the course of you getting certificate because I want to stay compliant. I know of a number of firms that for 1 year now, they have not been able to procure it. You apply online, you don't get any prompts. Bank suspend your account because you have not completed SCOMU certificate. So what do you recommend in this instance? Because you have applied online and, NFI has not, they give you an email, until they give you a prompt, you have uploaded all requirements. So what do you recommend to fast track as in procurement of SCOMU certificate? Because a lot of firms, even NFI staff, use it for a part-time job now, like a PR. What do you recommend in the name of we're trying to be compliant and comply with the money regulation? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's a straight, that's a challenge from SCOMU, which I've discussed. I had an engagement with them last week. One mistake that SCOMU is they're making is they don't give feedback. Many of the people that applied online, they didn't apply in line with their the procedure why they are supposed to do that. So when they do that, when people apply without meeting the requirement, what they just do is SCOMU will not attend to your request. They just keep your application online. So what I would advise is if you apply, ensure all you have your legal document, that is certificate of incorporation, the CO2, CO5, all of them should be in one document. You should scan them as a PDF in one document. When I say one document, don't scan them separately. For anybody that scan them separately, SCOMU will just keep the document, they won't attend to it. The other reason why why they don't attend to your request is if you don't put the direct owners, that is anybody that has 5% and above, if you don't put it there, they won't attend to your request. They will just leave your. You get mail that they are working on your request, but they will not. You will never, even in 2-3 years, they won't get back to you. The other area again is there's a place for indirect owners. If you don't put zero there, if you just leave it blank, that you don't have, for example, if you have, you have Shegun Shola and company, and they ask you for the owners, and you just put Shegun Shola as 100%, and there's a place for indirect ownership. You don't put anything there. You just leave it blank that is not applicable to you. That's another area. They won't attend to it. So that particular place, you're supposed to put zero there. If you don't put zero there, they will reject. So as if you just put it, treat it the way I just mentioned, your application will be treated within 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Folabi. So
then again, sorry, I think if you have any challenge, maybe you can chat me. I can link you up with somebody in Skumu. So that if you're, they will check from back end what's the issue with you have.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So, Mr. Akinlalu,
don't pay anybody money. Don't mind. Anybody should tell you to pay any money. Don't. It's free.
All right. So, can we have Reginald Oporua? Unmute and ask your question, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Presenter. I just need clarity. I want to know if banks themselves and probably insurance company, insurance brokers all need to register for the SCOMO while doing their businesses, if it's compulsory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The banks don't need to register with SCOMO because they are regulated. Insurance companies too, they are regulated. You know, the purpose of getting registration for SCOMO is to regulate some of this sector that are not being regulated in the country. Bank is already regulated, insurance companies are already regulated, but the churches, mosques, accountants, despite the fact that we are members of Ican, we are not regulated. That's why they said you need to get SCOMO certificate and to be regulated.
Okay. Yeah,
so in addition, sorry, in addition to the last question the man has asked just now, for insurance and insurance broker industry, they use NFIU because they are regulated, and it is mandated by NICOM. So
exactly. You know when I was presenting, I said we have other regulators. I mentioned PECOM and NICOM there.
Thank you, sir. The NFIU then, do they issue a certificate out to them?
NFIU is not, they don't issue certificate. It's SCOMO, Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, that issues certificate. NFIU is just governmental agency that are in charge of, what they do is to collect data from different sectors, from banks, from DNFVPs, and from there they will kind of analyze the data to get what information, probably monitor some transaction, identify some, gather some intelligence. That's their own work. They don't issue any certificate.
Okay, thank you very
NFIU
much.
means Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit.
Okay, we'll take the last question for the day from Emejegu Ogona. Can you ask your question, please?
Okay, my good evening, Mr. Presenter and all my fellow colleagues. My question is in two directions. Number one, I want to know when you are being like what we see in among politicians today, when you are being given a contract and you inflate the price of the contract beyond what is supposed to be able to move money. Can we categorize that as equally money laundering? And number two,
yes, sir. That indirect is money laundering. Anything you do that is legal is money laundering.
But they will say it's a contract, that they gave you a contract, you fixed a price, but they don't know you've inflated the price.
Is money laundering. What you are doing is you are inflating it for the politicians so that they will be able to see money too now, get money.
Yes.
Money laundering.
Okay, and another question is, we as an accountant now, does it mean that we are going to be on the, always being very careful? What if somebody is so careful and still fall into, having something to do with money launderers? You have done everything, but eventually yeah, maybe the thing was still hidden. Then at the end of the day, they found out that maybe you are the one that was auditing their financial statement, and then they want to link you with the crime they committed. Is there any way out? Because somebody may genuinely and sincerely have done everything he needed to do, but the thing is still covered up. Is there any way out for a chartered account, somebody who is into the practice? So I want to know, sir.
Thank you very much. If you audit a money launderer, doesn't mean you are a criminal. You know, it's humanly difficult. There are some things that, you know, especially in Nigeria, it's humanly difficult for you to identify a money launderer. What you just need to do as an accountant is to ensure you have done everything that is, let me use the legal term now. Reasonable that you have found that you have done your best. There are some things that may be hidden. For example, you might not even know the owners of the company. It's beyond your what do you call it, your reach to understand the structure of the company. But when there is any case, what the court of law will find out is to understand that if you genuinely were involved or unknowingly you were not, you don't know. Once there is proof that you did it unknowingly, you will not be penalized, you will not be sanctioned.
Yeah,
Example,
thank
let me give example. I'm trying to mention this. You know, during the Ibori case, you know, some banks in Nigeria were involved. You never knew that they didn't sanction the bank because they did what they were supposed to do, and the other things that they couldn't find out were beyond them. Then let me use on another contrary note. Let me use Dariye. I don't know if you are familiar with Dariye. Dariye's case is opposite of Ibori. In Dariye's case, people went to prison. The account officers that were involved in Dariye's case, one of them went to prison for 5 years, while one of them went to prison for 3 years because they were directly involved. They were the one, they were giving Dariye advice on how to beat the system. So if it's found out in court of law that you are not liable, that we are not directly involved, you will not be penalized. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Segun Afolabi. We appreciate you. On behalf of the founding fathers, the management, the ESCOs, and the members of the Ilupe-Juba Garden and District Society, we want to thank you for allowing us to drink from the fountain of knowledge of you, and for coming to dissect and make us appreciate what money laundering and terrorism financing is all about. We want to appreciate you for coming, and we hope that subsequently, when we beckon on you, you will oblige us. We appreciate you, and we say thank you very much for coming. We say God bless you, and we'll send our token of appreciation. It's not money, of course. We cannot pay you, and but we have a little token to appreciate you. It's a plaque commemorating your participation in this, so that you can place it in a conspicuous location in your office. We want to appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir. And
thank you very much. Like I said, Yoruba, this is Amatum.
Abi.
Yes.
Thanks so much, sir. So
thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. I will send the slide then.